And we're back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for La Liga Game Week 7. It is no rest for the wicked because we are straight out of matches from last night and straight into matches tonight. But in today's video, we're going to be covering every single match taking place over the course of the weekend in La Liga. This is, of course, the first of two videos I'll be posting today in a few minutes' time. You will also have my Premier League preview and predictions for this week. So before we get into this video, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video, sharing it with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on that Premier League video, as well as all of the other videos we've got coming up for you next week, including all three major European competitions coming up for you next week. And if you want to gain access to even more previews and predictions from myself, hit the join button at the bottom of your screen right now to become a member of the channel. League Earn predictions are already up. Bundesliga predictions will have gone live at the same time as this video, and League and Serie A predictions will go up when the Premier League video goes up in an hour's time. As for today's video then, these are the 10 matches taking place in La Liga. So as always, we will start off with the first game of the week, which is tonight's game taking place between Girona and Espanyol. Girona still in last place in the table, 20th place. Espanyol still in the Champions League places in 4th place. But it has to be said, even though Girona are still bottom of the table, when they actually managed to keep 11 men on the pitch, they've actually been a lot better over the course of the last couple of weeks. It's back-to-back away draws for them at Celta Vigo and Athletic Club Bilbao. But unfortunately, due to those 2 red cards last week, they still have 0 points at home coming into this match. For Espanyol, not been the best of weeks of them. They backed up their defeat at Real Madrid last time out with a 2-2 draw in midweek at home to Valencia, but even that required a 96th minute equaliser. Unfortunately, coming into this game though, as we move back to Girona's side of things, their injury crisis keeps on getting larger. The latest injury, another one, sadly, to Donny van der Beek, who suffered a serious knee injury, which is likely set to see him miss the remainder of the season. He'd only just come back last week as well. Really, really bad for him. But it looks like Sigankov is very close to a return, could potentially make an appearance at some point during the game this weekend. For Espanyol, no fresh concerns for them. What makes this fixture really interesting in terms of trying to figure out who is actually going to win this one, Girona are unbeaten in the last 6 occasions between these two sides, winning all of the last 3 at home. So I do think there is a good chance for Girona here. Like we say, it all depends on whether or not they can keep 11 men on the pitch, it seems, whether or not they can keep their starting 11 fit on the pitch, as it seems. To be honest, I do think Girona have got a really good chance in this match. I think Espanyol are more than capable of getting something. They're in 4th place in La Liga for a reason with the start that they've made, but with the week that they've had and with the little signs of progress I've seen from Girona over the course of the last couple of weeks, I'm actually going to go for a surprise Girona win here, but we shall see. I do think Espanyol have a very good chance. Next up, it is Getafe taking on Levante, and neither of these two sides were able to get it right in midweek. For Getafe, they could only manage a 1-1 draw at home to Alaves. For Levante, unsurprisingly, it was a defeat at home to Real Madrid, but it was a 4-1 defeat for them in the end. Those results mean coming into this match, Getafe are currently on 10 points from their opening 6 matches. For Levante, it is just 4 from their opening 6, so no surprises that we would consider Getafe to be the favourites for this match. Coming into this game, neither side have any fresh injury or suspension concerns coming out of their respective matches in midweek. Once again, though, it's going to be all eyes on a Levante player, with Eong's 4 goals and 3 assists last month, allowing him to get nominated for Player of the Month. He's had a very, very, very strong start to the season, but sadly, his goal contributions have not been enough to secure Levante the points so far. Could it be enough to secure Levante back-to-back wins in this fixture? We shall see. To be honest, though, I do think Getafe should definitely be considered the strong favourites. One of the reasons to go for them is because in the last 7 meetings between these two sides, 6 of them have been won by the home side, i.e. Getafe winning at home and Levante winning at home 6 out of the last 7 times between these two, including Getafe winning the last 2 times. So I do expect Getafe to come out on top here. As always, I expect Levante to score some goals at the other end, but at the end of it, I do think Getafe are going to come out on top. I could see a score draw, but I'm going for a 3-2 win to Getafe. Now, to a Madrid derby being played on a Saturday afternoon. Why it's been played at that time, I'm assuming it's due to Champions League commitments next week, but Seems like a very odd time to put on a Madrid derby. Regardless, coming into this, Atletico Madrid now up to 8th after an incredible Julian Alvarez hat-trick secured the 3 points late on against Vallecano. For Real Madrid, we just mentioned it, 4-1 victory over Levante in midweek, making it 6 wins out of 6 for Xabi Alonso's side. Really, really strong start for Real Madrid this season. Again, like with our previous match, no fresh injury or suspension concerns coming out of the midweek fixtures, but more opportunities for both sides to bring back long-term injuries for full fitness. I think we could potentially see Jude Bellingham's first start of the season in this match, but as the things stand right now, that remains to be seen. What is interesting about this fixture is that these two sides actually met 4 times last season. Both league matches ended 1-1, and then we had that epic Champions League tie last season as well. It was a 2-1 victory for Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, then that highly controversial game back at Atletico Madrid in the second leg, a 1-0 win for Atletico, which meant a penalty shootout, and that controversial penalty incident with Julian Alvarez, the double touch, or was it a double touch? Anyway, it ultimately led to Atletico Madrid's exit, and this is the first time these two sides have met since that incident. So expect an incredibly, incredibly hostile atmosphere for this match. I do still think, though, if you look at the way Atletico Madrid have performed so far this season, you look at the way Real Madrid have performed so far this season, I do think you have to consider Real the strong favourites for this match. To be honest with you, though, in games like this, massive derby games, in these sort of atmospheres, form does tend to go out the window, but I've got to try and do my job properly, and I think Real Madrid have just been far better so far this season. So I'm going for a 2-1 win to Real Madrid. Moving later on into Saturday afternoon, and we have Mallorca taking on Deportivo Alaves. For the first time all season, Mallorca will be going into this side as what is considered on paper the favourites for this match. Their tough start once again continuing with defeat at Real Sociedad in midweek. The reason why I say Mallorca are on paper as favourites is because actually if you look at Alaves' form at the start of this season, especially away from home, it has been very, very good. We just mentioned the 1-1 draw away at Getafe in midweek. That's off the back of winning away in Bilbao the week before. So when you look at that, and then you look at the other head-to-head record between these two sides, which says that it was a 1-1 draw here last season, with Alaves winning the reverse fixture, all of a sudden it looks a lot more difficult for Mallorca to come out on top in this match. In terms of injuries and suspensions for Mallorca, it looks like Mascaral is going to be out of this one. He had to go off just before half-time in the midweek game. No fresh concerns for Alaves coming into this one. Honestly, I do think this is going to be a very, very, very close affair. We mentioned that the game last season on this ground was a 1-1 draw, and to be honest, the way things have gone so far this season for these two sides, that seems like a pretty damn good shout here once again. So that is what I'm going to go for, a 1-1 draw. The final game on Saturday then sees Villarreal taking on Athletic Club Bilbao, where realistically, we have to start with the poor form of the away team coming into this. Yes, they are still in 6th place in the table, and yes, they did end their run of losses in midweek, but it was a 1-1 draw at home to bottom side Girona. It's just not quite happening for them at the moment. Whereas for Villarreal, back-to-back wins, back-to-back 2-1 wins against Osasuna and Sevilla mean that they are now back up to 3rd and playing some very, very good football. In terms of the team news here, for Villarreal, another injury concern for them with Comesana, the latest one to go out with an injury, and as things stand, it doesn't look like any of their currently injured players are going to be back in time for this one, including the likes of Perez, Moreno and Juan Foyth. For Bilbao, we've mentioned it every single video, their only real absentee at the moment is Nico Williams, but my word, how much have they struggled without him. So coming into this, I don't really know how much of a chance you can give Bilbao going into this match. The one benefit you can give them is they are unbeaten in the last 4 meetings between these two sides, and it was a 0-0 draw here last season with Bilbao winning the reverse fixture 2-0. Honestly, I don't fancy that run to continue here. This is a really good opportunity for Villarreal to stamp their authority on these European places early on, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Villarreal. On to Sunday then, and we start with the side who did lose to Villarreal in midweek, and that was Sevilla. They lost at home to them, and they're going to be travelling to a Rayo Vallecano side who who were the victims of that Julian Alvarez hat-trick for Atletico Madrid away last time out. That means coming into this game, Vallecano are 4 games without a win in all competitions, but they still remain unbeaten in all of their home matches so far this season. For Sevilla, it's a chance for them to bounce back after their defeat in midweek, which came off the back of a 3-game unbeaten run. So both sides sort of mixed in terms of their form at the moment. One's 14th, one's 12th in the table. So there's not much to split between them. In terms of the team news, no fresh concerns for the hosts. But for Sevilla, Adnan Januzaj went off with a knock for them in midweek. But as things stand, he is not currently listed as doubtful for this match. Once again, the head-to-head record between these sides is very close as well. There has been no more than 1 goal to separate these two sides in any of the last 7 meetings, with 4 of those 7 meetings being draws, including a 1-1 draw here last season. Again, the way these two sides have started their seasons respectively, that does seem like a pretty damn good scenario going into this one here. I would say the draw is the most likely. If I was going to pick a favourite, I would go for Vallecano, given how good their home record has been already this season. But I'm going to go for that 1-1 draw, which is a beautiful segue to take us into our next fixture, because it is Elche taking on Celta Vigo. Elche carried on their incredible unbeaten start to the season with a 1-1 draw against Osasuna last night, thanks to a 92nd minute equaliser, and they'll be coming up against those 1-1 specialists, which is, of course, Celta Vigo. After 5 back-to-back 1-1 draws in La Liga, they did unfortunately fall 2-1 to Stuttgart last night. I did warn you yesterday morning that Stuttgart would be favourites, and I know I still went for the 1-1 draw, but I did it for the memes, and the meme is now dead. Or is it? Because the run still stands in La Liga coming into this game. In terms of the team news, for Elche, Andre Silva went off pretty early in the second half, but as things stand again, doesn't look like he is going to be unavailable for this match. One person who will be unavailable, or should I say unavailable from the touchline, is the manager, Eder Sarabia, who was sent off last night and is going to be banned for this one. For Celta Vigo, no fresh concerns coming out of the Stuttgart match last night. The last 4 meetings between these two sides have all finished 1-0, but 3 of those 1-0 victories have gone in favour of Celta Vigo. I do think that another 1-1 draw is incredibly likely here, but the way Elche are playing at the moment, with how few goals Celta Vigo are scoring at the moment, I think Elche might just nick it, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Elche. Maybe I'm foolish for not going for the 1-1 draw again. I do think it's highly likely, but I think Elche are going to edge them out the way they have started this season. Speaking of sides that have started the season very, very well, we now have Barcelona taking on Real Sociedad, and both sides got a win in midweek. Barcelona winning 3-1 against Real Oviedo last night, a big comeback victory for them, which makes it 4 wins in a row. For Real Sociedad, their midweek victory was their first victory of the season, a 1-0 win over Mallorca, which was enough to finally lift them out of the relegation zone after what has been a poor start to the season, albeit they may actually find themselves back in the relegation zone before this match gets kicked off. And obviously, coming up against a side in Barcelona, they may find themselves staying in the relegation zone if the result does not go their way. In terms of the team news, there are actually no fresh injury or suspension concerns for either side coming into this one. So we're just going based on face value. There was a couple of bits of rotation from both sides in the midweek game. Unsurprisingly, Barcelona's record is absolutely outstanding when it comes to being at home to Real Sociedad. They've won all but one of the last 10 games they've played against them at the Nou Camp, although that failure was just 2 seasons ago, and Sociedad did get their own home victory against Barcelona last season as well. That said, on this ground last season, it was a 4-0 win to Barcelona, and they have continued to be free scoring at the start of this season, and Sociedad have continued to be very poor defensively so far this season. That 1-0 win in midweek really being the anomaly at the start of this season. Ultimately, I would expect Barcelona to win this one fairly comfortably once again. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give Sociedad a goal. I'm not going to go for a repeat of the 4-0, but I'm still going to give Barca the 4 goals that they scored, and I'm going to go for 4-1 instead. Final match on Sunday then sees Real Betis taking on Osasuna. For Betis, they played in midweek as well, but in the Europa League, like Celta Vigo did. But they were able to get themselves a point in the Europa League, drawing 2-2 at home to Nottingham Forest, and that was off the back of beating Real Sociedad in La Liga last weekend. For Osasuna, that last-minute equaliser for Elche means that they come into this 2 points behind Real Betis. They could have come in level if it wasn't for that last-minute equaliser, but I still think it represents a fairly decent start to their season. Coming into this, there are no fresh concerns for Betis. However, there's also still no sign of any of their long-term injuries returning, most notably, of course, Isco, who is still out. And for Osasuna, there are no concerns coming out of their match last night either. For Betis, they come into this 4 games unbeaten against Osasuna. However, last year it was a 1-1 draw here, and Betis did win the last 2 away games to Osasuna. So, bit of an interesting head-to-head dynamic coming into this one. Like with almost every fixture we've said so far today, I do think there is a decent chance that both sides could get a result here, but I do think it would be a surprise to not see Betis come out on top. So I'm going for a 2-1 win to Real Betis. And then finally, we have Valencia taking on Real Oviedo. Valencia backed up their win over Bilbao last week with a draw away at Espanyol in midweek. And as we mentioned, that was a 96-minute equaliser for Espanyol. It was almost a really good away win for Valencia. For Oviedo, they went 1-0 up against Barcelona last night, but it was too good to be true as Barcelona pegged them back and ended up winning 3-1 in the end. That means it is just 1 win and 5 defeats for Oviedo at the start of this season, and still only 2 goals scored, whereas Valencia in a much better position. To be fair, it's only 11th, but they are playing much better football. In terms of the teams, the only real absentee for Valencia looks like it's set to be left-back Jose Gaya. He went off early on in the game in midweek. For Oviedo, their only actual concern is just their lack of form. No one had any injuries last night. There's no suspensions carrying over from last night, but they are really, really struggling in front of goal, and they've got a really difficult away fixture here. Once again, there is no previous head-to-head record between these two sides because it's been so long since Oviedo have been in the top flight. Realistically, though, based on how these two sides have started the season, I'd be absolutely stunned if Valencia weren't the side to come out on top here. So I'm going to round off today's video with a 3-0 victory to Valencia. And that is, of course, going to be it for my previews and predictions. Before we leave, let's see what you guys have been saying over on the community page regarding these fixtures. Once again, thank you for all of you who got involved. I only posted the polls for these yesterday because of how much the pile-up was in La Liga this week. So thank you for everyone that's voted. This is what you have gone for. Majority going for Espanyol at Girona, which makes sense given how they've started the season. More going for Getafe over Levante. A lot of you going for Real Madrid in the Madrid derby. Mallorca, you guys think are favourites to beat Alaves. Villarreal to beat Bilbao. I think genuinely our closest prediction community-wise of the season so far. 32, 31, 37 for Vallecano Sevilla. Majority of you think Elche are going to beat Celta Vigo. Obviously, a lot of you think Barca are going to beat Sociedad. Most think Betis are going to beat Osasuna. And almost everyone thinks Valencia are going to beat Real Oviedo. As always, a massive thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below anything you think I've missed, what your thoughts are on these matches coming up this weekend. And once again, I'll pop my predictions back up on the screen before we leave it. A massive thank you very much for watching once again. I'll see you in an hour's time for Premier League Game Week 6. I'll see you there.